Russia's joint staff, who are saying that they have been monitoring the situation in Libya from space via satellites since the beginning of the unrest in the country. And according to them, some of the reports made by the Western media are not entirely corresponding to the pictures that they are getting. To be more precise, according to Al Jazeera and to BBC, on the 22nd of February, Libyan government has inflicted airstrikes on Benghazi and on Tripoli. And according to Russia's military, they have not registered any of those airstrikes. According to them, the pictures show that nothing of that sort has been going on the ground. Now, if we also focus on the pictures, on the footage that we've been getting from the country, we may be able to notice that there are absolutely no signs of any destruction inflicted by attacks from air or by Libyan Air Force in those pictures. So at this point, Russia's military is saying that as far as they're concerned, they have not seen any attacks, so they can pretty much make a judgment that those attacks, which the Western media has been reporting on, have not been made. The Russian military is also working in very close cooperation with Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they're monitoring not just the military situation, not just Tripoli and other cities in Libya. They're also paying a very close attention to the oil extraction facilities, and they are keeping us up to date as to what is happening on the ground from space.
That is Rina Galushka in Moscow. Let's talk now about these unfolding events in Libya to Peter from New York tonight. Mr. Stoner, thanks for being with RT. OK, then let's take a look at this. Stand back a bit. With the US and the UK gathering their military forces near Libya, as you see it, is another American-led intervention on the cards?
I sure hope not. I think any type of military intervention by the West would be a huge disaster for many reasons. One, it's likely only to lead to a dramatic escalation in terms of the loss of life. While Gaddafi's shown his willingness to kill far more of his own people than Mubarak in Egypt, sending in U.S. and Western troops or bombs is only going to dramatically increase the destruction. Also, there's the real risk, I think, of it backfiring. You often hear of something called like the rally around the flag effect with foreign interventions, where people will put aside their differences, qualms with the government to oppose outside intervention. So I think there is the possibility that this could happen in Libya, where people it could actually serve to empower or embolden Gaddafi further.
All right, now what if your worst case scenario does happen? How will that write the future history books? I mean, some experts say, for instance, of course, once foreign forces intervene, they never leave. We saw that in Iraq. We saw that to an extent in Serbia. Does Libya face the same fate in the long term, in your view, if that happened?
I think there's a real possibility of that. I think anybody who talks of any kind of quick and easy military intervention is just wrong. History has proven that that's just not the case. Looking particularly at Iraq and Afghanistan, what the so-called experts were predicting before those interventions, before we intervened militarily, and look at where we're at now. Many years of war, hundreds of thousands of people killed. And there's no end in sight to those interventions, and so it's unpredictable what would happen, but it could be devastating. And I think ultimately the opposition, which has been largely nonviolent, still hasn't run its course. I think there's as much as there has been a loss of life, there's also many signs that the opposition has the Gaddafi regime on the ropes. And, you know, there's reports that up to maybe 90% of the country is in rebel hands at the moment, and that there have been serious defections within the military, within the government, ministers and diplomats. So there are lots of signs that the regime is already crumbling, and I think military intervention could be dramatically backfire.
How much do you think NATO listens to the populations involved here? I'm thinking about in Egypt, anti-government protesters there repeatedly insisted they didn't want foreign intervention. Similar sentiments too from rebels in Libya now. Does NATO listen to what these people are saying, do you think?
I don't think they listen too much to the people, unfortunately, no.
All right, well, Colonel Gaddafi is accusing Western leaders of switching sides, isn't he? Something which Egypt's ex-president Hosni Mubarak witnessed. Should other US-backed regimes in the region be watching their step tonight? Should they be worried?
I think the other regimes in the region should be worried about the opposition, the homegrown opposition. The protests throughout the region, I think, are posing serious threats to the regimes in Yemen and Bahrain and several other countries. So I think that there should be more of a concern for the homegrown protests that are happening throughout the region, which is a really encouraging sign. But the U.S., I think, unfortunately, is likely to back these regimes until the bitter end, as we did with Tunisia and Mubarak in Egypt.
All right, peace campaigner and journalist Eric Stoner in New York, thanks for your input here at RT tonight. It's appreciated. Well, another line now to this story. It's thought that the Libyan leader has found